Welcome, one and all, to the wedding of the century, Charles and Diana. And I'll say right away, it was at this moment that I realized that the writers of the show named the character Charles specifically for this moment. We're going to get into that and a lot of other things here as well. Welcome to Review on PLD Projects. I am your host, PLD, and with me, as always, is my co-host, wonderful friend, Lego. How are you doing, my friend?
Oh, PLD, I just gotta say, dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to witness perfection.
Under the
Well, almost
auspices of
perfection.
Zahn. Under the
Oh,
auspices of Zahn himself. Yeah, this was the first episode after, of course, we lost our wonderful Ham Tyler. And we lost a bunch of other characters. And this is I think it's considered the end of the cull as far as I'm concerned. We have two people who leave the show now after this episode. We're going to get to that. Obviously, we spoiled this show completely. Charles is gone at the end of this episode. But also, what you don't know, we probably might not realize, is that this is also the last of the Howard K. Smith episodes. We have no more Freedom Network introductions after this episode.
how do they not have an episode entirely devoted to the Freedom Network?
Right?
Who made that executive choice needs to be.
Drawn and
I need to
quartered.
get some rotten cherry tomatoes to throw at them and say, boo, boo.
I know after last week, we had the legend of Frankie Weatherwax. We were just really getting into that. I think we were going to, we actually had another good one this week. Her name was Stuart Kaminsky, which I don't know about you, but that sounded like an author to me. That just sounded like he's a best-selling novelist.
That's no Frankie Weatherwax.
He's no Frankie Weatherwax.
Well, wait, can I say what I wrote down about this? So
Go
Howard
ahead.
K. Smith, Freedom Network. There's people working together in Johannesburg in South Africa. Like the race is working together. A little heavy-handed, okay? And then they cut to white man creates underground railroad. That's not the wording that they used, but that's basically what they said.
Yes, that's pretty much what it is.
That was a choice.
That,
And then Nathan Bates died. What will be the fate of Los Angeles?
again, and I think that's what they were starting to really get a hold of things. They had some outside stuff and they had some inside stuff. So I get to see some different takes on what was going on in the show. I have to say, if it was Frankie Weatherwax creating the Underground Railroad, I think he might have been okay with it. I think so. But
that's not a lie.
that man's mustache could do no wrong. So, all right, let's. that is the last week you get to see of Howard K. Smith. I guess without I love it, but at the same time, if you're cutting budget down, if you're cutting things down, that was an obvious choice to make because it doesn't really ever.
How did they not just
storylines
film those ahead of time? It's fine. It's not fine.
Yeah, that's actually a good point. That they were going to cut them. They cut it actually to say, "Hey, Howard, come film for a day. Read these like 6 or 8 storylines, and you can be done for the season." And it's not that much of a budget cut. But you know what? I wasn't there. I don't know what went down. Maybe Howard K. Smith got tired of it. Maybe he wanted to leave at this point. Rats sinking ships, that whole thing. Who knows? We don't really know at this point. I will say overall, before we start breaking down the actual rest of the episode, for the first episode, like I always kind of in my mind when I rewatch, put the leaving of Ham as like that's the jumping the shark moment for me in a way. But I gotta admit, I actually really like this episode without Ham not being there. Because there's definitely a lot of camp. There's definitely a lot of soap opera, dynasty and space stuff, which you kind of really have to. And once you give into that and let yourself love it, you're gonna find a lot to love. But there's a lot of cool stuff on the Resistance side as well. A lot of questionable stuff as well. We're going to get into. Let's just get right into it. So we begin this episode. LA is in shambles. Shambles. Go right ahead. You're biting. You got something to
We open on the most obvious miniature I've ever seen in anything. The only person this could possibly potentially fool would be Zoolander.
You think Zoolander wouldn't fool with it? I'm not even sure Zoolander is fooled by that, to be really honest with you.
Iffy with that man, iffy.
Yeah.
It was so clearly a miniature. But then we cut to like real, like actual cars and buildings, and it is
Right.
very war torn. There's lasers blasting. I just want to know how long it's been. And you don't
Yeah.
give us any kind of time. Well,
It feels like it hasn't been well, I feel like it hasn't been very long, given what we find out soon is that Diana had launched this attack without getting orders from Lydia or Charles. So I gotta feel like that couldn't have been too far, like, gone, 'cause I feel like if there was if it was gone far enough, Charles and Lydia would have had, or at least Charles would have had his plan in place to do whatever he had in mind with Nathan Bates's death and
and I
check.
also have the follow-up question of what specifically did Nathan Bates do?
Well, Nathan Bates was the governing facility. I think what that meant was, I mean, the whole arm thing, the whole arm bar thing, where you had the red dust supposedly in secret canisters all over the place, which never comes to be. So retroactively, it makes no sense. But the idea was he kept the visitors at bay with to a treaty
I
because
mean,
if somebody was
it all
against
worked
them,
because he had, yeah, the potential red velvet cake.
right? Exactly. As far
And
as
without
humans go,
that, then there is no safe city. LA has
right.
essentially fallen.
In my head canon, I gotta say, I think Chang deactivated it. I think that's what happened. They all went down. Chang went over to the other side and deactivated it so that when Bates died, it wouldn't explode. Maybe Chang's idea was to reactivate that after the whole situation was done, but then Chang died, and so all of a sudden we have no no more at stake. Diana can make this large attack through Lieutenant James. Um,
So now I'm assuming Los Angeles is pretty much like everywhere else in
Everywhere
the
else.
world.
Yes, that's the case
Okay.
now. It is resistant. LA is in shambles, and actually, they actually reuse footage. I don't know if you realize that you reuse footage. The beginning part after the miniature is stuff taken from the first episode of the season. It's Liberation Day all over again. It's right before. I mean, they have the whole thing where the resistance fighter or somebody starts shooting somebody. The visitor guard shoots them. It's right before in the first or second episode, maybe when Donovan and Ham come with the car before they go to Club Creole the first time. It's that situation entirely. So we're already getting back into reused footage because the war-torn Los Angeles is actually more expensive, I guess, than a safe Los Angeles. Makes sense. You got to break everything, destroy everything. I mean, that's why I think that's one of the reasons they had it safe space to begin with. You'd have to worry about the war
So
torn
now I'm thinking that this whole show essentially should have been like the opening episode of Attack on Titan, where we live in a little bubble world and there's a threat outside, and the story should have been focused on the morality of living in a safe space, knowing that the rest of humanity is being eaten. Well, there's so many ideas this show could have gone through.
The thing is, I feel like that was kind of supposed to be a little bit of the idea, but they just never did anything with it. They weren't clear enough about it. The idea was we're going to do this thing where, like the French did, we have this open city where everybody can live peacefully and everything else. But you didn't really get. All it did was take away the threat of the visitors. It didn't actually make you think any more differently about what's going on. I think your point is spot on. I would love to have seen what that means to like the people outside of Los Angeles. Are they all clamoring to get into Los Angeles? A whole like migration factor could have been something amazing. You have these people going in from California, all the different cities like San Francisco, San Diego. Like, what do they think about all of this? How far does the Los Angeles? Is it just the city of Los Angeles? Is there expansive? We don't really know. But the storytelling was just not there to really explore it. And here we are, what's it, 12 episodes? They did barely anything with it, unfortunately. And even that, it's not even 12 episodes, really, kind of, because we had one or two episodes that took place mainly outside of Los Angeles. We had the Playa del Mar episode, we had the Overlord episode, which was in that camp facility. The break. I mean, so we had a bunch of different episodes that really didn't even. So it didn't even get a chance to really do anything that you'd want it to do. But at the same time, I guess getting Bates out of there now at this point, there was no once you had to cut Nathan Bates and Chang out of the storyline, there was no reason to keep that. And let's just get to a war tour in place. And I think the show could have done a lot with that now. We could have come back to a more simple premise and just focused on Los Angeles. And they've done it the right way. And there's some good here and there's some not so good later on. If that makes sense. Um, so we do open on Los Angeles, is in shambles, and we meet this little family who is in a storefront, out some broken down storefront. We have a pregnant woman, and I gotta say, one of the dorkiest kids I've ever seen on TV. And I can say that only because, honestly speaking, if I showed you a picture of me at like his age, I probably look the same. I
All
actually
kids look like that in '80s.
it's true. The hair, the big glasses, the haircut. Poor Johnny, the dorky kid. Um, but it's an interesting. This out here is one of those little pieces which are interesting. What do we do? The hospitals are closed. We don't know where are these families going. They're not actually at their homes. They're not in their home. They're in a storefront that's broken into. What do you do? This guy's not Alan. The father's not a. He's not a rocket scientist. I can tell. He's kind of like doing the best he can.
Oh, I'll talk about him later.
I think he's doing the best he can, mostly, but he's, what does he do? He's got to go find the only doctor that he knows. Of course, it happens to be very coincidental. The only doctor he seems to know is
What a
Dr.
crazy
Juliet
random
Parrish.
happenstance.
Amazing how that works, right? Um, so this is the setup right away. We know that, okay, well, they're going to be their focus a little bit. Oh, we have to see what's going on in the world. I think the family was fine, but again, the kid is dorky. He serves his purpose. Actually gets to serve his purpose with Kyle a little bit later on. There's actually a
I
nice
think it
little
serves more
moment between the
Kyle,
two.
which I actually really liked
Yes,
quite a bit.
agreed. I think it's one of my favorite parts of the episode, to be completely honest with you.
I was so focused on the aliens. I'm like, humans, no, go back. Mothership.
Well, we do go to the mothership next, and we have Diana and James, and this is where we are solidifying the Diana and James duo, as it were.
Which, why is he's basically, I mean, okay, I get why, but I feel like the intercut in this show shouldn't have happened in this episode. Like, he should have been on deck this whole episode with her instead of
Yeah.
viewing the attack down on Earth.
I mean, it's kind of strange because James's character was introduced before as this like counterintelligence kind of guy who was, masquerading as resistance. All of a sudden now he just becomes a field general, kind of like the character, the visitors we had at the miniseries who originally got Robin or who took Robert. Those kind of like Diana underlings who are the tough guys now. But they're not. It kind of takes away the interesting angle we had with James and just makes him just another grunt for Diana to be with. One that, of course, they're going to be flirting with.
He's there to service her.
Yes. You have to get the flirting in, as always.
So much innuendo.
Yes, Diana needs the D, and that is what the episode basically comes across. Her entire character basically comes down to that as far as her underlings go. But I honestly don't know what is in it for James at this point, because Diana, her star has gone south, obviously, with Charles coming back, with Lydia taking over. They're the ones I would think he would be sucking up to, but he's choosing to hitch his ride to Diana's coattails. What do you think of that? Does that strike you as odd, or is it like?
So I assumed it worked because of Diana's lizard wiles.
That's true.
I mean,
Lydia
how
only
can
has
you resist those scales?
Lydia only has eyes for Charles at this point, so we know that he can't work magic with her. He might be able to work his magic with Diana. Obviously, he's getting.
I mean, have you seen Charles? He might be able to work his magic on James.
That's true too. That is very true too. We don't know about that potentially. I mean, we don't even know anything about their sexuality as far as lizards go. They could be. I mean, Diana seems to have gone both ways. Maybe James could. Maybe they all go both ways. We don't know. It's never really delved into. But I guess it's okay if you're gonna have a field marshal kind of thing. It's not a bad person to have. At least he was already introduced. You don't have to bring somebody else in. He's not awful. He just kind of appears to be a little bit of a himbo. I much prefer the earlier.
I thought he was pretty capable.
You think so?
Yeah.
All right. Well, maybe I know a little bit more than you. Maybe that's my looking forward to things.
Oh,
that could be
okay.
what it is. It could be matching in my head, maybe potentially, but. What do we think about Diana? I guess she's just doing Diana things. She just orders the attack, not waiting for Charles.
She's being pretty successful. Way to go, Diana.
I mean, definitely was risky, because if she failed, then Charles would have had.
She's too confident to fail.
Well, that's always That's always the case, but that's actually sometimes against her sometimes. But in this case, like she says, you can't argue with success. How can you argue the fact that they're taking over Los Angeles pretty quickly?
Yeah, I will say her plans usually are pretty good. She's not it's not that her plans are failing. Like she's not Wile E. Coyote,
Right,
right? It's that the people, the resistance is just doing a better job of countering.
right.
But
Eh,
if they weren't as much of a defense, then I think Diana would have been successful a long time ago.
Yeah, and I will also say a lot of times her underlings have fallen through on her. She's not a military person herself; she's a scientist, so she can only count on the military side of things. And if the military aspect fails, then you can't really blame her if she
And
had well laid plans.
it might sound ridiculous, but I do think she's a little too trusting.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's maybe where her
She gets betrayed
always
a
getting
lot.
involved. Yeah, that's
And she
true.
puts and she tends to think that people are a little bit more capable than they are.
Yeah. Maybe because she doesn't feel herself to be very militarily capable, that she trusts
Again,
everybody
I
to
don't
do the
know,
order.
'cause she's pretty confident.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. All right, we jump back to Earth, and Alan, of course, our father figure there, finds Willie of all people, and I want to say right away, the Willieisms in this episode are just over. They have like 5 or 6 of them. Usually, gets like one
Okay,
episode. Just everyone.
Elizabeth needs to use her Jedi powers to see what sort of neurological damage Willie has, because this boy has, like, aphasia or something.
I am insolent. Um, now
Pornographic memory, PLD.
that one was my favorite, I gotta say, because I love like that he says it and how quickly Elizabeth is like photographic because the 2-year-old obviously knows what he's talking about. Um, of course, that's
Oh,
true though
you
because
don't think she's seen some things, PLD? She's seen some things.
I mean she does know what men want. That's true, as we
She
remember.
picks up cable like, Gilligan.
That's an interesting. You know what? I wouldn't put it past her. Her Jedi powers. I mean, she's watching Friday Night After Dark on Cinemax back in the
At
day.
this point, I really feel like Elizabeth is just limitless in terms of power, and the fact that she hasn't just physically brought the mothership down is laziness on her part.
Yeah, you know what? Blame her. Hashtag blame Elizabeth. She's the reason
I
why we're
do.
losing. Okay,
I
it's
do.
fair. It's fair. Well, Alan B's Mr. Tough Guy with Willie trying to get to Julie. Kyle steps in, and right away I'm like, okay, this would have been Ham. If Ham was still here, this would have been Ham.
Yeah,
He
but
even
now
has
Kyle can be Ham.
he even has
Idiot.
he even has his Ham's gun. That little Mac that I talk about, he's taken Ham's gun using it. And this is where I'm going to start calling him. He's no longer Kyle Bates to me. What he is
Ham Jr.
vegan. He is vegan Ham. He's like a ham substitute at this point.
PLD, I can't talk to you right
Am I wrong? He's a substitute for ham. He's a vegan ham.
now. No, I'll call him Porklet.
Pork lit.
Porklet.
Porklet. Oh, porklet. Okay, I can do that. You call him porklet. I'm calling him vegan ham.
Piglet. I'm calling him Piglet. Oh my God, Piglet. Yes, he's Piglet.
All I know is that I felt the rest of the episode I watched through and again, and it realized that in some ways it definitely was better for Kyle's character to have Ham leave, not only because it gives him more to do, but it gets him away from Elizabeth. All of a sudden, Elizabeth goes with Willie, and
Yeah.
Willie and Elizabeth are a team, and Willie doesn't have anybody since Elias left. And Kyle becomes Ham with Donovan, basically, and Julie at this case as well. But it gets away, not necessarily Kyle from Elizabeth, but gets the audience away from another dragged out Kyle Elizabeth storyline. Because quite frankly, the whole
They don't have
obviously
chemistry,
they don't. They really
and
don't.
it's not
And
well written.
Robin's gone now, so there's not even anything like between them. That's very not even that the love triangle was compelling, but at least it was
Was
something
creepy.
for them to do. It was very creepy, but it was something for them to do. And you taking away Robin, all of a sudden now it's like what they're just gonna live happily ever after. I didn't see any compelling storyline to do. I mean, you could of course a good writer could find a way to make it work, but it didn't seem like it was worth trying at this point because, like you said, no chemistry whatsoever. So So Kyle becomes vegan ham. Let the audience choose. How about that? You comment below which one you want to use. You want to use piglet, porklet, or
Piglet.
vegan ham?
Piglet or vegan ham.
Okay. I will abide. If anybody says in the chat, I will put a poll in the chat maybe if I can, and or the comments. I will abide by the poll.
I will not. He is piglet. Also, because of so I don't know if you watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
I have not yet. I really do want to.
There's a part where Christopher Robin screams, "Piglet, no!" It's like it was like in Troll 2 when they're eating her. No, they're gonna eat me. No. I mean, it was only a little better. It's so bad, really. But the costumes are pretty gross. I had a fun time with it. I was laughing so hard. I'm getting teary-eyed just thinking of it.
That is a thrilling recommendation, a winning recommendation. So I'm definitely gonna have to put that on the. It was already on my queue list. I gotta say
they're making a sequel. It's supposed to come out next year.
That is impressive to me that they're making. Well, it shouldn't be because it was probably pretty cheap to make. I'm betting. I would think so. I mean, maybe I'm wrong, but
I can't imagine how much. I
mean, I've always put out there that horror genre is the best genre in the world, and little only else because you can just put almost no money towards it, and horror fans will lap it up anyway. Generally speaking, that's part of the humor. That's part of the joy of it is watching sometimes some of this bad effects. When you have good effects, we're like, ooh, those are really good effects.
And sometimes it's what you choose to put the money into. For instance, Llamageddon. Choosing to put the money into an animated sequence and a great song and nothing else really. Baller move. Love that movie. This show, to bring it back, weren't making great choices. Weren't doing any kind of no great moves, no great ideas, no great creativity. I feel like they were in a box of this is what show should be, and this is what we can do on this budget versus this is the budget we have. How can we make it interesting?
Right. That's a great point because, quite frankly, this was at one point the most expensive show on TV. It does not look like
What's the most expensive show now? It's Lord of the Rings, right?
I'm assuming it's a Ring of Power, but it's always hard to tell with streaming services now. And I know Rings of Power was like 4 of the 5 seasons. Also, so they put so it's hard to. I don't know how much per season that actually meant because I know they top loaded that or they front loaded that by building all the sets for season 1. That's going to last into season 5.
And I think that they then moved locations, so all those sets are useless now. Like, what were you thinking? Why would you do that? That was the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That's ridiculous at this point. But I do think you're right. I think that's probably up there now. But I got to think House of the Dragon's probably up there. Just because it looks like it's pretty real practical stuff as far as I can tell. That's a good question. I wonder what else is out there that would be very much. I mean, because you don't have a lot of a lot of like you can talk back in the day. Friends was big because of the salaries of the cast.
Yeah, I was thinking like that, but I'd probably discount salary.
Yeah, discount.
Well, I mean, I guess you probably shouldn't.
I wonder if the Sandman is expensive. How expensive Sandman was for Netflix. I feel like there's a lot going on there, effect-wise.
No comment.
No comment. You're not a fan of the Sandman?
Oh God, that I tried so hard with the sad boy. I just wanted to slap him in the face. I couldn't stand it. But it's interesting because like when you're reading it, you can put your own kind of narration and idea and tone into it. But when you're watching it, you're just like, oh, shut up.
Okay, fair enough. I enjoyed it, but I won't argue that you're not. I'm not going to argue that you're wrong.
I mean, maybe I would have liked it when I was, younger. When I was really into The Crow, for instance. Like, I feel like this one kind of coincided. Although I understand The Crow a lot more.
You don't want me to start going on The Crow. That would be an entirely different podcast because I loved The Crow. That was my favorite film in the 90s.
Oh,
I watched that 50 times.
I wore a Crow hoodie every single day of high school. I still have 2 Crow shirts. I had a poster. I was obsessed.
I got to find my Halloween where I dressed up as The Crow.
Oh my gosh, it's amazing. I've definitely done the makeup.
Oh yeah.
I also try to look like Robert Smith. We won't go there.
That's not too far off, but it looks like I looked it up real quick. It is Ring of Power is considered the most expensive, 58 million per episode, whereas Citadel is the second most expensive at
Never even
15
heard of
million per
that.
episode. It's got Richard Madden from Game of Thrones and Priyanka Chopra, and they're spies in Italy. I don't know what that could
I
possibly
feel
be,
like
15 million per episode, but
is it popular? I've literally never heard of it.
I've heard of it. I've never watched it. I never had any plans to watch it. I know I have a friend who liked it, but it wasn't enough for me to go, okay, I'll put it on board. No.
I wonder if Monarch is very expensive because
That's
it
a good
looks
question.
phenomenal.
It does. I haven't watched this week's episode, but I can't wait to get back to it because
I've only watched the
I'm
first 2
really enjoying
episodes
it.
because
Okay.
I
Fair.
really forget weekly shows. I have to binge.
That's fair.
And
That's
I think the
absolutely fair.
last episode was the last one, right?
I think there's one more. I think they're
One
doing
more.
9 episodes, I want to say. So I think there's one this week and then one more after that, I think. But anyway, we're tangenting a lot now. We got to get back.
Okay. So yeah, LA is just crazy. The resistance is considering moving around. You know, we've cut to we're in the resistance and they're moving things from one room to another for reasons that totally make sense.
Sure.
To have an actionable scene and having your characters do something instead of just standing there talking to each other. I guess.
That's really all it is. Yes.
But they
Donovan
decide ultimately to stay in LA.
6 M16s on his arm, left and right. He's got boxes going left and right. Yeah. Donovan says it's their best bet to stay put because there's a lot of stuff going on. He says they're trying to get flushed out, so you might as well stay put because one place is as good as another for now. And I got to be honest, that kind of makes sense to me. I understand what he's doing. They're at least they have all their weapons in place. If you're trying to move everything, you're going to move everything. Either you're going to separate and be pinned off,
Only
or
for 2 scenes later for them to leave.
well, I mean, it is much different if the visitors are in the basement with you at that point.
I just feel like it was still a little dumb, but okay.
Okay. Well, the thing is, if you think about it, I think the strategy actually does make sense, though, because if you have all this equipment to move, you're either going to move as a convoy and be out in the open, and they're going to know exactly who to take, or you're going to split off anyway and get picked off one by one. At least here they were together. That was the idea.
It's been a long time since I've seen it, but was it the 2004 Dawn of the Dead where they built up those buses, kind of like Mad Max? If they had the budget, they could have done some cool stuff. How much does it cost to get an old school bus?
That's a good question. You know what they could have done also in the recent. I watched my friend and I watched Twisted Metal, the TV adaptation, and it's fun, it's silly, it's stupid. But there's a convoy of 18-wheelers that they actually connected together to drive that at the same time, and it became like this roving city, which was kind of a cool concept. I'm not gonna lie, they could have done that too. You're not wrong.
But at this point, the fact that we don't have any Mad Max stuff in this show is ridiculous.
It's still early on. If we win a couple more seasons, we probably would have gotten there. But you're not entirely wrong.
That should just have been what the show is. It's fine.
So while they're scrambling around, Willie and Kyle bring Alan back, and Julie and Alan have a warm reconciliation, even though she goes to school with his brother, I guess.
Well, I mean, sometimes you just know people's families. She seems like the kind who would get to know everybody. But this is what was important. So Julie recognizes Alan, and so do I. This is the actor who plays Dr. White in Saint Elsewhere. Now, the year was 2020, and I binge watched Saint Elsewhere whilst in the great 2020 lockdown. And let me tell you, that show is weird. And Dr. White plays a sexual predator who's also a doctor. And that show has more SA than Law and Order Special Victims Unit. What happened to those writers? What was going on with those writers? I'm deeply, deeply concerned about those writers. That show was wild.
That is a show that I've heard a lot about, but only like the name, and that it was on TV. Like I don't know anything about it except for it was at a hospital, I assumed. Besides that, I did. Besides that, I have
It's
never watched it. I
I
don't know.
knew nothing about it. I knew it was at a hospital, and I assumed it was gonna be like an hour-long version of Scrubs. I was the
Wrong.
first episode is, Tim Robbins is in it, and he plays a man, who is a terrorist and blew up a building. I'm like, "Oh, okay,
Oh,
this is a lot darker." than
so this is more ER than
I've never watched that either.
okay.
But
Well,
it has, like, Denzel Washington is in it.
oh wow.
Um, who's Mr. Feeney?
Oh,
Daniels, William Daniels.
yes. William Daniels, yes.
Um, Egg Begley Jr. Who doesn't love an Egg Begley Jr.?
Oh
Yeah, it's got
yeah.
a great cast. And
Oh, Howie
Alan!
Mandel.
And Alan is evil. I don't trust Alan for a minute.
Okay, all right. Hey, well, he soured you here, but so he's really colored your view on him here. So you can't get past that, it seems, with Alan.
I
I
can't
mean,
you don't understand how crazy St. Elsewhere was. I'm never getting
wow,
past it.
wow. I mean, we should start a GoFundMe page for you for your therapy for St. Elsewhere. But okay.
It legitimately weirdest one of the weirdest shows I ever watched.
Oh, you're actually making me almost want to check it out. I mean, how many seasons were there? Was it a bunch? Or
6?
6. Okay, it's a lot of
Maybe.
episodes. Oh. Well,
Oh,
maybe I will.
William Daniels' wife from the first the
Oh,
movie, Bonnie Bartlett.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
she's in it. So, hey, I
Okay.
brought it back to the original
There you go.
miniseries.
There you go. Yeah, I just saw cast. I just looked it up here. There's some actually, yeah, some great people. I got
Yeah, definitely.
David Morse, who I always love.
Yes.
Like Bruce Greenwood made an appearance. I love me some Bruce Greenwood. So Mark Harmon. Oh wow, okay. There's a
Oh,
lot
yeah,
of
he was in
people
it
in
for a
there.
while. I think he died of AIDS.
Oh, that's a topic to be tackled in the '80s like that. Wow, it's impressive that was tackled like that because they kind of pretty much took that
That's a
shoved that aside.
sentence. This show definitely didn't tackle a lot of things well.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Okay.
Like, all of those SAs, because whatever reason, they decided to have multiple serial predators. I just don't understand it.
Well, I think yeah, I'm sorry you were traumatized, but I believe Alan is not a sexual predator here. I believe he seems like a good
It's
guy here.
He's not worse here, but the fact that they're in a war-torn situation and he got his wife pregnant, that's almost tantamount to murder in my book. Things could have gone very badly.
Well, I gotta
Like,
push against you there
it
because sometimes, especially in a war-torn area, things like that kind of just happen because you need a little love to stay positive, and then
you need to
sometimes
be a little more careful.
with a war-torn world,
Shame on Ellen. Shame.
maybe maybe condoms and stuff aren't available as readily. They've had to try to, it's one of those. I will give him credit where credit's due. Sometimes that stuff happens in war-torn countries. So I will not
Shame.
shame him. I will not shame him for looking for love. For
Shame.
looking for love in a
That's not looking
war-torn.
for love. That's looking for a little tension release.
How do
And
you
there are
know?
other ways.
You know, maybe it might be love. It could be love. I mean, yeah, they have one kid already together. They love each other. All right, all right. We'll have to agree to disagree on the sexual activity of couples during war-torn climates, I guess.
They just made more human soup for the visitors.
Or do they make a resistor for 15 years later, 16, 17 years later?
PLD, 18 years. Come on now.
Oh, you don't think there's resistance fighters that are going to be 15 or 16 at that point? If the visitors are here 16, 17 more years, you're going to get them warriors that are a little bit younger than 17, 18 at this point. Let's be honest. Um, we've seen that in wartime countries as well. Anyway, this is an episode that's going really off the rails, and I love it. I'm here for it. Alan talks to Julie, and this is where I do blame Alan a little bit. He's kind of like, all right, tell me what to do in order to deliver the baby myself. Alan, you look like a football player. He played a doctor in St. Elsewhere, so I guess maybe he's a doctor but at this point, he looks like a big, goofy football player kind of thing.
Alan,
That
you
would
could
never
have
go
broken
with
into a library and gotten a book
that.
on,
So,
on home births.
I don't think so.
You know what they needed? Willie should have gone because he's a doula.
That's true. We have established that. Although it is a pure human birth. Does that do anything? Does that maybe make him a little bit weird,
Yeah, but Willie's
uncomfortable?
got great bedside manner.
Well, that definitely is, but that's very accurate. He's definitely. But okay, so Julie decides she's going to go with him, which is a little bit almost out of character in a way. Almost out of character. I feel like she's always been the kind of person like for the resistance, not for the individual person. Whereas in this case, I felt like Donovan was the other that this time. Get her here, we'll help you. And Julie's like, no, I don't care I'm going. I don't care what the problem is. I don't care what the risk is. I'm going.
She's changed a lot.
That's well, they have changed. Donovan and Julie don't seem to be uniting at this point. We kind of forgot to track that along the way. Donovan and Julie, when did they stop being an item? We don't really know.
Have Donovan and Julie met? I'm not certain. I think I've seen them interact once or twice.
At this point, right?
Have they had scenes together? At this point, they're like in oh god, what is it called? Fast and Furious. It's like those guys that they have scenes together, but it's green screened. Are they even in the same room?
Right. Who knows at this point? Donovan, of course, is a little sexist about it. Of course, he just says Julie's gonna go. He's like, what? And Kyle's like, I'll go with her. Oh, okay. It's all okay then. It doesn't matter. If Julie goes by herself, it's a problem. But if if Vegan Ham goes with him, it's okay.
He's really starting to trust Piglet. Piglet's really, becoming a really great fighter. He's real trustworthy. And if I'm being honest, I wouldn't want Julie to go by herself either because I just don't trust Alan.
Well, there you go. I think that's your problem, though, at this point.
Well, okay, in my defense, just because she knows Alan, looking at Alan, not Dr. White, just because she knows Alan, or more specifically, Alan's brother, doesn't mean that he hasn't become someone who's helping the visitors.
Okay.
So I think Donovan's right to have his cackles a little raised. Because as he says towards the beginning, is that by the end of this, there's only going to be two types of people left: resistance and people helping the visitors.
Collaborators, yes.
Collaborators. I really couldn't pull that word.
Okay, I saw you struggling there a little bit. I was like, okay, I'll get you back. Of course, if Donovan does feel that way, he doesn't really do too much of a good job giving Alan a gun. But it is what it is. So they leave.
I tried.
You tried. Now we jump back to the young boy and the mother, and the young boy takes a part of a door frame off. I wrote this down in my notes. I thought this was actually pretty funny. He takes the door frame off. There's this big loud noise, but there's like a big delay, like a second before the mom goes, it's like crack. Her reaction's like delayed, Michael. And I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's an ADR thing or what it is, but it made me laugh every time. This poor kid's trying. He's trying to be a guard. He's trying to be helpful. I don't see you very happy about him. You're looking down on him a little bit. I can tell. The kid's trying his best.
Yeah. I just don't think that's just how any kid would behave in that situation. And yeah.
I would disagree with you. I think as a boy at that age, if I was in that situation, I'd be scared out of my mind, but at the same time, I'd be so. It feels like I think
that's the issue is that he didn't really ever seem afraid.
I feel like these guys this family has never had much actual interaction with visitors. That's my feeling from here. Like they made it to the storefront without much interaction. So in his mind, he's a badass man of the family who can protect his mom because he's never actually had to deal with the visitors. If he actually had to deal with the visitors, I think you see him being a little more scared. Because you have a lot of cockiness. Some kids have a lot of cockiness when they feel this way at this age.
Maybe that's why I don't like him.
Maybe that's what it is. He's doing his best though. He's going to guard his mom as best he can. But then we jump back to the mothership, and Dynasty in Space continues, or Dallas in Space, whatever soap opera of the 80s you want to use.
Is Dallas the one where Who Shot JR?
Yes, that's Dallas. Who and the season after V was canceled, Mark Singer actually jumped ship to Dallas for a little bit. I remember V fans feeling betrayed.
Did he shoot JR?
No, he did not shoot JR. He did not shoot JR, but he was in Dallas for like a season or something, maybe a couple episodes. I never watched it, so I don't know. Even for Mark Singer, I wasn't about to watch Dallas, which is funny. Me saying that, me taking that stand, considering I'm watching Dallas in space right here, for the most part.
Maybe they had a great, hook like that, advertising wise. Who killed Charles?
They really could have gone that route. They could have really drug it. I mean, they actually do drag it out, but they never actually, I don't think they ever marketed it that way. And we know who did it, but like, there's this whole idea they could have made it more mysterious at the end.
This show really could have taken a lot of notes from soaps in having, continued storylines.
That's true.
I said with contempt.
It's dripping from your mouth, the contempt. I feel like that's what's going on here. I see it coming out of you. So they do have a thing. They have Lydia and Charles meeting over Diana's aggression and her plans that are succeeding, so he can't do anything about it. When he comes with this plan, which I actually think is kind of a cool thing, I really like. We're actually getting to explore a little visitor lore. That's not quite Zahn. It's the idea that as a member of the House of Ramon, House of Ramon, he's a member of the House of Ramon, so it's obviously some kind of royal household, whatever it is.
He's like a lord. He's Prince Charles.
He is legitimately Prince Charles, and he gets to choose who he marries, and the recipient does not have a say in the matter, does not have a choice in the matter.
Never mind, he's Prince Humperdinck.
That's actually probably closer. Better looking Prince Humperdinck, but Prince Humperdinck nonetheless. It's interesting that they go this route. I like that we get any more lore, but at the same time, I feel
like they're making their society a lot more regressive than it.
That's exactly what I was about to say. It's like for a species that's advanced as they are, they've come to Earth. We have Diana as a front officer, Lydia as a front officer. They're heavily involved. Actually, females are very strong in this species, as far as we know. That can all be just brushed away by Lord Charles. That's not saying anything. I mean, to be completely honest, there are some societies where there are certain like loopholes of society that are very conservative traditional, that will sometimes supersede where we are supposed to be. But I would love to have seen more of this explored, but we're not going to get that because that would be a lot more need of subtle writing and more exploration than they had time to do, I guess, in their head, or they just didn't care. Probably the same.
Go with that one.
I'm probably going to go with that as well. Now, I'm trying to think. I'm going to ask you this again. Sometimes this blends together with me. Lydia is very like overtly jealous in this one, like beyond a shadow of a doubt.
My note literally says Lydia versus Diana is so old.
That's what it is. It kind of feels like, okay, but have we seen this? Like, is this like? I feel like this didn't really get brought in very subtly at all. Like, I feel like that she kind of admired him, but she goes from like 0 to 60 in this episode, where all of a sudden now she's like fawning over him and in love with him and can do no wrong with him.
Oh, it was real obvious she was into him.
It was. Okay. It was. So I felt like, okay, all right, then maybe it's me. I kind of feel like they turned it up very quickly in this episode. I kind of felt like she was loving the power more. Like she was more loving the idea of having Diana under her boot more than the actual man.
I mean, both can be true at once.
True. But in this case, whatever the case, either way, it's definitely turned up to 100 here, where she is all about getting pissed off that Charles is going to even marry her, even when he explained that he's going to send her home.
Time to be more subtle.
What was that?
Because Lydia had time to be more subtle. Now, if Charles is marrying Diana, it brings those feelings to the forefront.
She'll be married with Lizard and on her way home.
I love the with Lizard. I cackled. That once. So the thing about this show is, not that I would ever point out some issues with writing. But they're really hit and miss on the lizard puns, and I feel like that's not really something you can half-ass. Either you really got to go and
Commit to
do
it.
the lizard puns, or you gotta not.
Right.
And I think they should have gone full lizard pun.
Full lizard pun. You know what? Like my initial thought is that it's too silly, but it's not too silly for this show. It's too silly for the show we had, the miniseries, but the show we have now, I agree with you, all in on the lizard puns. If we can be all in on the Willyisms, then we can definitely be all in on the lizard puns at this
And
point.
that wouldn't change anything in terms of your budget.
Right?
Puns are
Absolutely,
free.
puns are free. Uh, All right, so we go back to Resistance, and we do get to see for the first time Elizabeth's new Jedi power as Woody tells her to consecrate. And not only does she have a photographic memory,
She's a tape recorder.
she does
She's
voices.
a
So
tape
right,
recorder.
like I almost would be. The funny thing is, of all of the force powers that she gets, her having like strong memory, I'm almost okay with. Like I kind of feel like that would have been like that wouldn't have been that big of a that wouldn't have been that bad. That's kind of cool. Okay, I can see her
If
developing
they
that with her
could
brain power.
just
But the voices,
do a better job of the introduction and the maintenance
yes,
of the powers.
yes,
And maybe, the thing about Smallville is oftentimes Clark would get a power and it wouldn't be that power is just magically the power that he needed that episode to save the day. It was usually he got a power and that caused the problem
right,
that he needed to fix.
right, exactly,
Much better writing.
100%. This time
I
we just
mean,
have
not to
Willie.
compare V to Smallville, but to compare V to Smallville.
Smallville, veal. All right, that was bad. Instead, we get Willie telling her to consecrate, and I guess they've been working on it. They should have been working on it for a while before you actually get a chance to do it. But just as the power level itself, that one I actually like is some of the thing that they could have developed and gone with. But either way, picking
Does
and
it ever
choosing
come
those
back?
powers. I don't believe so, no. And that's the
I
problem.
want to throw something.
That's the problem. I really don't. I'm pretty sure it doesn't go back. Elizabeth does do voices later, but it's not quite the same. Now, I'll drop that little hint for you. Not quite the same, but we'll get there. So they do this little scene, and it's all really basically setting up for a later on scene. But this is where we again another Willyism. We have two in the scene: consecrate, and then it's always best not to jump to contusions.
He has a contusion. He needs to see a lizard doctor. We need to go back and get the curly haired guy from a couple episodes
Howie,
ago.
where's
Yeah.
Howie? It was actually last episode. That's not even a couple of that's one. What? That's from last episode.
That seems like a longer time ago.
Doesn't it? I think 'cause we took an extra week when we have
Huh.
recording. That's probably what it is. But anyway, I do like this scene when James and company attack the Club Creole. This actually brought me back to the final battle raid a little bit. Yes, it's a little bit of a cheaper version of it. Yes, Donovan is trying to be Ham a little bit. And yes, we end up relying on Elizabeth's telekinesis powers, which at least those have stuck through the entire time. Those have been kind of the same since the first episode of this season. So, but it was a nice little action beat, I thought, especially with the budget that they don't have, supposedly. Getting a little bit of a battle. And it kind of was a little sad moment to a degree. This is the end of the Club Creole. As we know, we never get to see the Club Creole again. Elias's legacy is officially that his former bartender is still with him. Mr. Taylor, if Mr. Taylor, give him some credit where credit's due.
He's still in the credits, so they gave him credit
for this last episode. Yes,
we actually, because I was looking like Michael Ironside's still in here.
After the call of this episode, the next episode we start is a new opening sequence with new credits. Which, by the way, I actually like the opening sequence a little bit, but we'll talk about that next time comparatively. So, what did you think? Did you like this action beat? Were you nonplussed about it? What you didn't seem to be.
I think that I was just. It was just fine. Not the most memorable. I'm not like necessarily the most like. I kind of zone out during action scenes typically. If I'm being honest, I'm like, okay.
Okay.
You
Then
guys won. Go figure.
then let's jump
And
to
Elizabeth's facial expressions, well, Jennifer Cook, I should say, or yeah,
she does appear to be orgasmic when she's being telekinetic. I will give you that
I
a
mean,
little
she
bit.
she looks like wide-eyed, like
Yes.
like, okay, that's a choice. Was a choice.
But, all right, then let's get to something you do like. The campness. We get Charles and Diana's scene next, where
Yeah.
Charles tells Diana the plan, or his plan, and this is a very well performed scene by both of them. We get Charles's smarminess, charismatic smarminess, but still smarminess nonetheless, and we get Diana's abject terror and
Anger.
refusal and denial about the situation.
And she
I do.
came in so confident. She's like, "We'll have LA by nightfall.
Mhm.
Oh, you're gonna marry Lydia?
Like
What?
what?
I refuse."
Right.
No.
She's like so close about it. Section 48 deals with marriage. Oh, Lydia. Someone else. Who else could it be, Diana? It's kind of like the Princess Leia situation at this point. There's only two women in the fleet at this point that we know of. Besides
Oh, I got comments later.
all the nameless women we saw when Charles arrived. We did have all those nameless women on the bridge for that one episode only when needed. But I don't
I
know where
got
they went.
comments for later with the cat poison.
Oh, we're gonna get there. I can't wait to hear your thoughts on that. Um, she tells Diana, he tells Diana the plan, and it's a nice little smarmy scene. I'm not sure what that thing he's playing with is. It's a funny little like rock thing. It's like a
Yeah, it's like
he
a light.
turns it, light goes on. The sound from when he was converting ham comes back with the ring. That sound, I don't know, but I
And
do
I
like
mean, honestly, he has a good plan.
it. Mhm. Yeah, marrying her and getting her home does solves everything that they want to do. They get rid of Diana. Charles and Lydia can be in control. They do have Diana's victory still to base to build themselves off of. But that's part of the whole visitor's problem this entire time. Their infighting has been problematic from the get-go. Ever since Lydia showed up, you said Diana and Lydia are getting old. Yeah, Diana and Lydia are getting old. Diana, Lydia, and Charles are getting old as far as they're keeping the visitors from succeeding at this point. And it's kind of funny that they're this advanced space race, this advanced race of lizards coming from like trillions of light years away, and they're being held up by bitchiness and cat infighting. It just it says a lot, I guess. I mean, humans are probably the same way, but
Well, this episode could have had a really interesting conversation, like kind of going back to the OG in terms of like depth, but that's just not quite there because like you were saying, um with what's her name having the baby, Alan's wife,
yes,
um that creates more future potential victims or soldiers
right,
going out of the way,
right,
or food supply going
right.
out of the way. And then Charles wanting to marry Diana and have her home and with Lizard to create future potential soldiers or victims of war, and the kind of labor capital, and I mean this literally, for that women have this kind of necessary, and in terms of the visitors, kind of
Mhm,
like compulsory heteronormativity to continue the population level.
mhm,
And that could be an interesting conversation because humans have a kind of a similar thing up
yeah,
until very recently, historically speaking, and
yeah,
the kind of socio cultural conversation that could bring up, particularly as it regards misogyny, and
mhm,
how kind of like, and how do you kind of balance like allowing women to have autonomy with in these cases needing more soldiers, and then like autonomy as a, in this case, lizard or person, with like the cultural necessity of going to war and being at war.
right.
um yeah, and that could have been a really deep, really interesting, introspective conversation, and it's just
Comparison between the
scenes that
two,
happen instead.
yeah. That's the story of the entire weekly series, unfortunately. I feel like this stuff, if Kenneth Johnson had stuck around and we got in the miniseries, like the series of miniseries that he wanted to do, these are the kind of things we could have delved into. I gotta feel like we would have stuck on Earth for a lot more and dealt with the human side of things, because he always, like in my interview with him, he said he always dealt with the human reaction to fascism and things, if that's what he sparked him to do V in the first place. But I feel like if you stuck around long enough, it would have been natural for him to turn his camera literally to the side of the aliens and showcase them as a comparison. This is what the aliens do. This is, even though they are fascists taking over in a way, what is their world like? Is it worse? Is there something different at home? And we have this third alien race that we mentioned in the original miniseries that we never hear from again. As far as the final battle of the weekly series go, we do. There's a drop. We do get to hear from that third alien race in the second generation novel. Interesting. We'll get into that eventually. But no, I like what you're thinking on that. Is it's again, we're being way too heady for what we're getting out of the weekly series here with the writers we got. They are turning it into a special effect of the week, the action beat of the week, and the soap opera moments of the week, which is frustrating. It is actually frustrating. I can love it for the surface level stuff it is. I do think there's a lot of fun to have. Obviously, we had a lot of fun with this episode still, but there is definitely this is fun to watch, but we could have gotten so much more.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely difference between fun and good TV, so to speak.
Yes.
So, and I have no problem with fun TV. Don't get me wrong, no problem at all. But this had a lot of potential. All right, so we go back from there. We go back to the storefront, and we get a little bit of the kid asking about basically how pregnancy works. When Julie, Kyle, and Alan do show up, and it becomes kind of a quick discussion. We don't know what they're going to do. They're in a storefront. It's kind of like a little bit of a mini decision that we just made with Donovan and the Resistance back in Club Creole. They're in the storefront. There are troops wandering by. Do we try to move this pregnant lady now? Do we have her baby born in a storefront where there's no equipment? What if something should go wrong? It's a lot of thought to have. But first, we're gonna have.
In my experience with zombie apocalypse movies, just the baby's gonna be born a zombie, so let's just cut and run.
Leave the woman there and get out of there. Okay. Well, maybe Dr. White would have done that, but Alan's not going to do that at this point.
Well, then you're going to get eaten too, Alan.
All right, we jump back to the Resistance, who had fled from the Club Creole and obviously had split apart. Donovan did say, meet at this certain
Griffith Park.
Griffith Park, thank you. That's right.
That's maybe not where he said, but that's where they meet.
And we get another Willieism. He is the outlook instead of the lookout.
It's getting concerning.
It is. It really
We're gonna need to get Willie like some Sudoku, maybe some word puzzles. He's gonna need to keep this sharp.
You'd figure he'd be getting better at this point.
I'm so concerned.
Yes, I mean he should be getting better after a couple of years. He's getting worse.
Do visitors get dementia?
Another thing we could have tackled at some point, but we don't. Maybe if we had another season or two, we would have gotten that. I doubt it. But if we had other writers come in, maybe we would have gotten that. I did actually like this scene between Donovan and Willie, though. We don't get a whole lot of them together. So I always like when you get different characters interactions, and this was kind of a different one. Donovan doesn't have a lot of patience for Willie, it seems, quite honestly.
No, Willie is the Rose of the group, and Donovan is the Dorothy. And she is absolutely over it.
Yeah. That's a great point. That's a great point. I don't think I've ever would have thought to compare V to the Golden Girls.
I was looking.
But that absolutely does amazing. I think Donovan's a little more optimistic than Dorothy is, but as far as Willie goes, probably not. So this is the point of the show that made me very interested, intrigued, and realized how much we've lost so far. and where we are at. So Donovan, Willie, and Elizabeth have this moment. First of all, beyond the pornographic memory of Elizabeth, this is where I actually get the line pornographic memory. Elizabeth remembers where Julie and Kyle are. Donovan tells them, obviously, because Julie and Kyle have no idea that the Resistance headquarters is gone. So he's going to go to them, let them know that, it's we're in tough shape, we've moved, yada, yada, yada. He leaves Elizabeth in charge of the Resistance.
Because we don't have any other actors, PLD. We don't have any other actors.
And that's what I mean. We've lost so many people. Hamp's gone. Julie and Kyle are off on this mission. You can't leave it to the lizard with dementia, I guess, at this point. But a 2-year-old is still leading the Resistance. This is the same girl who, like 4 or 5 episodes, like 5, 6 episodes ago, was still looking for mommy. That bothers me.
I don't believe I'm going to say this. We needed Blair Tefkin.
If Robin was there, Robin would have been our leader.
100%.
And that's very scary.
A sentence.
That's a sentence we are saying right now, that Robin, Blair Tefkin, would have been the leader of the Resistance.
Oh, PLD, if this got a season 2, clearly the humans would have died. We lost the war. That's why we couldn't go on. They should have just had one more episode that ended like they ended dinosaurs. The extinction.
Well, this is why I can't wait, because if you don't know, viewers are watching this along for the first time, which there may be somebody out there doing it, I don't know. V goes, I believe it's 19 episodes. Yep. 19 episodes. We're going to do it. There was a 20th episode that was written. We're going to cover that. And I think how we're going to do it, I think we talked off screen. I think we're going to do it this way, is that you're not going to read the script beforehand. I'm going to read the script so you can read along with me. So you can hear what's going on and you can react to what's going on. I will warn you, I don't think it's a final draft kind of thing. I think it might be a little bit of a first draft, but we'll get to that. But the end there is an ending that would have led us to season 2.
Oh.
And we'll have a lot of conversation about that when we get there. And I don't know how wrong you actually are, though, in some cases, but we'll get there. Donovan and Kyle, so Donovan leaves Elizabeth in charge, which has to happen, I guess. And Donovan tells them where to go for the new Resistance base, which ends up being like similar, if not the same place they were as in the final battle at one point. Because if I remember correctly, in the final battle, they were in a movie studio area where this is where Chris and Maggie had the fight.
There are a few, if we're being honest, right. And they all look like abandoned Western towns. Like right. Sheriff Bart just built this with the town of Rockbridge.
It's kind of funny actually to say when we get there later on, when we get to the abandoned fronts. Willie actually says something about they're all fronts. As a kid, I had no idea what he was talking about. I was like, what is it? And I finally watching it years later, I'm like, oh, that's what that means. It's like a set. It's not an actual saloon. It's an actual building or whatever. But before we get there, we go back up to the mothership, and Diana is greeted by this old couple who I guess do weddings.
Okay, I have a question. So multiple. So the guy is there to shave her body. It's makeup. I'm gonna scream. It's fake effing skin. How much PLD, I'm gonna lose it. I paused it. I rewinded. Did I just hear that? And then I rewatched the entire episode. And then in my rewatch, I had to pause, go back, and watch that. Okay. And then the woman says, "You'll look great." She's going to do like the wedding dress. "You'll look great in scales." You mean like her actual effing, her real look? I don't have. I'm broken.
I mean, I am the same way.
What?
I thought the same thing. I'm like, they don't have hair on their body.
And
So
she
what are
has
they?
scales. What are these? What is happening? Who wrote this? I'm confused. Do the people who are, do the writers know that the
Yeah,
visitors are aliens?
I don't think so. I think some of them don't. I think some of them just plain
This
don't.
this would be such an interesting, like, I would like a show about this show's writers room.
Yes, I would love. I wish we had cameras in there and we could
Nay,
have watched it.
I would like a film about it in the vein of Air.
That's a good one. That's a good point. I love that idea. Um, all I could think of when watching this scene is I'm enjoying it and having fun with it, even though it's definitively stupid. I felt so bad for Kenneth Johnson. Like, if he was so, I mean, he has never watched this. Supposedly, he said he didn't even watch the final battle because he was too close and too upset about it and everything else. He only caught a few things like by mistake or by passing through or whatever. If he
Channel
sat
surfing.
down, yes, if he sat down and watched this
He
episode,
would have died before we got here because he would have put his head through a wall.
I think he would have. This is
He would
what
have
this has
face
become.
palmed so hard, his palm would be visible the back of his skull.
He just would have thrown his head up. Going, I can't do this anymore. Take me, take me. I I don't. I just felt so bad for him. This is what it's become. And again, for all of you out there watching, we're two people who are really enjoying watching the weekly series. So we still actually really enjoy watching it. But it's amazing the difference. The episode we get further is just so much further from the original, the quality of the original
Oh my
miniseries.
god, PLD, I got it.
Okay,
I got it.
you got it.
The writers were so mad, they wrote it bad on purpose to get it canceled.
That actually does make sense. That actually makes sense to in some degrees. They wanted to move on. They were mad at what's going on. They said, you know what? We got to fuck with this. And like, I almost feel like it's one of those situations where
I
in the
mean, they
writer's
got
room,
bets. They got bets in the writers' room. They're like, how stupid can we make this before we get canceled?
I feel like, I can't remember. Like, this is reminding me of a show that I can't remember watching. They wrote something so bad, it's like, haha. And like, they get to the point like they're airing it. They're gonna air that episode. They're gonna air that shit I just wrote. Are you fucking kidding me? Kind of thing. Um, that's a great sitcom waiting to happen. I think right there. The writers who were trying to get a show tanked and writing things so bad, but it's still making it to air every week. They had to come back and do more and go. I can't believe we're still here. What do we have to do to tank this show?
That would be so funny.
I love that idea. We should get together. Nobody out there listen to that. Don't write that idea down. Don't steal that. We're gonna develop that and see what happens. Okay, so we go to the movie set studio. We get to see the resistance
The show would
arriving.
be called Prime Time.
I love this. I love this conversation. We're going to have a big pitch about this at some point. Um, so we get there and we see this is one of those dialogue moments that was written for a punchline, or not punchline. It was a setup written for a line of dialogue that's about to come, but the setup never would have been said in real life. And what I mean by that is it's the Jeep. Willie walks out to the Jeep and goes, vroom, vroom. This must have been quite a hot dog.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
He never would have said that. I mean, there is a case in the 80s where a hot dog I think it's supposed to be like this is a cool car. It would have been a hip car, a hot, and I don't
I
know.
thought maybe he was going for a hot rod, but that's not what that would have been called at all.
No, I don't think so either. I mean, no. But it's all set up so that we get to see the introduction of Ramsey, who is now the Resistance mascot. But I got to be honest with you, and I don't want to break you.
Does the dog die?
No.
I'm like, I'll leave.
I know you would. I know you would. I wouldn't go that far. I just don't think we see Ramsey again. I'm kind of like, that's a
Okay.
lost opportunity. Like they introduced Ramsey in here, and he actually has some moments. It would have been actually kind of fun if you're going to have this Resistance be the way it is. Having the Resistance dog at the place would actually make sense and be fun. A little fun addition. But we do for at least get an episode of a dog here, which is nice, of course. Yeah, so the resistance are settling in. And I think it's a cool hideout. I mean, and I guess it's off the beaten path. So you think it's a good hideout, a good fun hideout to be. It's open air, open space. You know what you need to do. If you're going to get out of the Club Creole, let's get out from underneath the dank basement and get somewhere with an open air. It's kind of a different setting. I like that.
It was raining in California.
That's something right there. All right, well, we jump back to Mothership, and this is where you talked about before as far as underlings go. Diana has another underling that we meet, this time Lewis, who she's getting pretty desperate with at this point. She's giving him gifts and like she's thanking him for being loyal because he's going to
Very
ship her out.
strange.
It feels very strange, right? It felt too desperate. I mean, I know she's supposed to be desperate, but I think even desperate, she wouldn't act like this, if that makes sense. It felt like it was too much of a position of weakness. I kind of feel like Diana is always known for acting from a position of strength, even when she's not strong. This felt weak. I didn't like it.
No, I didn't really see it that way. I saw it as showing that she can be kind and compassionate when people help her and are loyal to her.
It's
Because
interesting.
you can't rule if nobody likes you.
People
Not
try.
not in that industry anyway.
People try.
But Charles catches her,
because of
and
Lewis.
I got comments about the actor who plays Lewis's facial expressions.
Oh, tell me. I'm all.
His facial expression was something along the lines of when he's standing next to Diana after Charles catches them, is something like this wide smile, just. And he kind of like bites his lip and sticks his tongue out, and then like takes her back to her room. Like, sir, what are you doing?
I have it on now. He does exactly what you say. Obviously, he's in on it, and he wants to. Maybe he either wants Charles or he wants to be under Charles in some fashion. But he is definitely not on Diana's side.
When Charles catches her, I wrote, he has just signed his death warrant. He is so dead.
All right, we go back to the storefront.
The baby squad.
Baby squad. Okay, the baby squad. There, I like that. I'll go with that. And of course, they're about to move when James shows up with a roving band of troopers, checking various things, even telling them to check on the red van out front, which is the resistance. And then we get to see dorky kid just running and just walking right out in the middle of anything, and gets seen by the visitor, forcing Kyle to shoot the guard, or the trooper rather. And we have been introduced to a siege where the visitor troopers know there's resistance members there. And what are we going to do?
I'm going to kill John Michael Davies for being a little bad kid. Listen, kid, you got to learn the survival instincts real quick.
Mm-hmm. I don't know how he's going to live through it. Those are survival instincts because they suck. They do suck. I want you, though, to remember, just for future episodes, I want you to remember when James literally says, check that van. The line is actually something to stop. Check that van. Sergeant, that van there. Check it out. I don't want to leave any vehicles that might be commandeered by the resistance. Just remember that for future episodes. As a reason why, and we'll get there. So the siege is on, but we jump back to the mothership, and we get another piece of visitor lore.
Oh,
maybe my favorite piece of visitor lore: the ritual bath with the eels.
Okay, so I was doing a dance for the visitor spa. PLD, they got the nicest spa.
Yes, they do.
What? They have plants. They got this like rocky jacuzzi kind of
natural looking jacuzzi thing. Yeah, like a hot spring. Really, it looks like a hot spring. It feels like a hot spring.
And she gets the ritual eels.
What are they? What does that do?
What the F am I watching?
What's going on here? And there's the very seductive spa employee, owner, worker, talking how beautiful Diana is and how she's one of the most beautiful women in the fleet. But my question here, may their venom give you strength. Why is Diana in her human skin then at this point? This feels like that's a problem.
How long does the makeup last?
That's a great question. I mean, they fix it all the time. I assume they fix it all the time. That's my thought process. That they can kind of just get it
How did
fixed.
she get into a jacuzzi with steam
Yeah,
and all that stay on and not shrink or shrivel?
that's a good question.
I'm so unhappy about it.
Those are the questions that we don't know the answer to. That'd be a part of the film in the writer's room for sure. The skin, that's actually exactly part of the thing. It's the skin visitor, for Christ's sake. Then we jump to Charles and Lydia. And Lydia just decides to, I'm going to kiss you now.
And he was so about it.
Right. This is actually one of my favorite parts, though, honestly, of the episode, because Lydia gets in, you're still going to marry her? Well, of course he's going to marry her. That's the whole plan. I'm not changing my mind. But then he says, oh, as long as you send it back. And he gets down and dirty. This is where Charles fucks up. In his own head, anyway. Actually, I've decided to keep her for a while. Oh, Lydia's mad now. Oh, Lydia's mad because now Charles saw her in her ritual bath and realizes that this is where he's thinking. He's thinking with the other head there at this point.
I mean, I don't know what lizards are endowed with, but little Lord Charles.
Little Lord Charles got a little bigger, and he's definitely thinking more with that.
3 sizes that day.
That is the clip we're going to use, I think, or that's the Lord Charles grew 3 sizes that day and pissed Lydia off to no end. And then we meet who I gotta believe is your favorite character in this episode, Marta, the pharmacist. Take it away.
This lady looks like she came straight out of Thunderdome. I don't understand her hair or her outfit or what exactly her job is. Is she a bartender or is she a pharmacist?
I think she's supposed to be a pharmacist. That's the idea. But she's dressing like a bartender.
Like she works at Neo Noir, the bar from the Terminator.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. Absolutely. I could see her in that bar. I could see her in the bar with Total Recall. Maybe she has
all of these women are so gorgeous and all of their outfits are so dumb. She's wearing what looks like if you've ever hooked up like a washing machine, like that black hose around her arms.
Yes.
Like I don't know. Lydia gets cat poison and perfume.
Wait, there's a storefront in the mothership, just in the hallway. Like
she doesn't pay for anything.
No, she doesn't pay for anything.
She has a tab. Available.
But like, I feel like that's the kind of thing that wouldn't just be in a random hallway. Like I kind of feel like that'd be a place that there's like
not like a bar, but like I don't know, like a drink. Like I'm gonna get a smoothie before I go into the wedding ritual spa.
Right, but I guess like to me, like if let's throwing it out there, like if this was Star Trek, the Enterprise, you wouldn't just walk down the hallway and see like a storefront for the part. There'd be a room for it somewhere, or there'd be a shop somewhere you'd go in.
Yeah, I don't mind the hallway aspect. It's kind of like a drive-through.
I just thought it was a little strange myself, but I'll digress. I'll let it go. What I won't let go,
the cat poison.
The cat poison, and
I loved it.
The implication that the mothership has a cat problem.
Yeah.
That was the part that, like, the cat poison, okay, fine, I'm poisoned, but you're telling me yes.
I know it's not true. Hear me out. Frankie motherfucking Weatherwax infiltrated the mothership of Los Angeles with a bunch of resistance fighters, and they brought cats with them and released them onto the mothership to eat their food supply.
That would be a very petty attack by Frankie Weatherwax, but I am here for it. Because
like cats don't multiply like rabbits. So this isn't. I just don't understand. I can think if you caught the cat, you got the problem solved very easily.
Yeah, I 100%
Also,
agree.
you're in a mothership that's flying how high above the Earth's atmosphere? How are the cats getting there? In addition, I what I think would be perfect is birds. Because birds potentially could get up there. Birds could get in there. Birds reproduce kind of a lot. There are a lot of birds,
We
and
actually had pet birds
birds will
in
eat
the
mice, birds will eat lizards, birds
yes.
will eat all the kind of things that the lizards are eating. The birds should have been a problem, just like Alfred Hitchcock predicted. Well, Daphne du Maurier, but you get the picture.
I do get the picture, and I agree with you 110%. That would have made a lot more sense. The cat
And I
poison.
would love a
Mm.
the birds episode. Listen,
That would have been fun.
If Birdemic can do it, they could do it.
You don't have to be mad with me. I agree with you. I would be on board with that. You don't have to sell me on that. I'm sold. I am well sold. What I'm not well sold on is the next scene where we go back down to the movie studio
Brockridge.
and yes, and there is another set of troopers that are walking through.
How? Why?
This is supposed to be out of the way. So that's strike one. They go in, they were talking, so they go in. Ramsey saves the day, okay, by making noise and jumping out, gets shot at. So, all right, sure, it's only a dog. They are not like a minute have left the building, the storefront or the front rather.
Yes, and they start talking.
Ramsey, thank you so much. Like loud as that. What is going on here? They totally can hear you. Like it's such bad performance, such a not even like the performance because I'm sure she was told to do that, but such bad execution all around. Guard this. Where did they come from? Where are they going? Do they have a sky fighter there? Do they have some kind of like? They're just wandering around and they're getting to this
And
set
that's another
piece.
thing. How can you have any? I've said this before, but how can you have any hiding place when the aliens are in the sky?
Yes, exactly.
It makes no sense.
That's why they should have had they should have been like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles and been like in the sewers or something like that.
Okay,
That would make
I've been
sense.
wanting to say that this whole time. Hear me out, Demolition Man. They're like that
Mm,
crew that lives under in the
yes,
sewers. Yes.
makes so much sense. That would be
And also,
exactly.
LA, pretty big sewers. Or they could live in that subway that people keep telling me exists, but I don't believe it.
Well, it's funny because I mentioned before that I like this set, the new set, because it's at least it's a breath of fresh air, different from Club Creole. I'm gonna say that I'm wrong from 10 minutes ago because exactly this is the point because you said they're in the air. It's a stupid decision to be out in the open like that. At least the Club Creole was in a basement somewhere. That makes sense to a degree.
Also, subway you can get or subway. Sewers you can get anywhere there's streets.
Makes a lot of sense. And
And
we
it
had
very
that a
rarely
little bit.
rains, so you're safe.
We had that in the original miniseries where they're at that plant, but it's connected to the
Yeah.
sewer systems there. They use them to go around. That was smart. That made sense.
Or go up to like the mountains and chill in the forest.
Something to that effect. All right. Well, after that, we go back to what was it? Baby Squad? Is that what we're
Yeah,
doing?
I'm
All right,
glad.
Baby Squad. Okay, Baby Squad. And we have probably one of the best dialogue moments in the episode. An actual legitimate. Every once in a while, the writers are. I don't want to say they're good, but they have a competent moment. And this is a competent moment, as I have to say. Vegan Ham and John Michael Davis have a moment together where we get to build up Vegan Ham's character. We get to see more what he's made of, which again does him service. Michael Ironside leaving the show lets him slide into that role. We need to learn more about him. And we have a moment where John Michael Davis wants to kill visitors, wants to kill lizards. He wants to join the resistance so he can kill visitors. And Kyle says, despite everything that's gone on, he says, no, even lizards have the right to live. We're just as long as they agree to live in peace and
So
there's some kind of
specifically,
rules.
you shouldn't want to kill anyone, not even lizards. There's only
Right.
one reason to pick up a gun, and that's in self-defense.
Right.
Which
And,
I will say, I like 21 Jump Street. It's a good
yeah,
line. He delivered it well. Pretty deep talk for a 7-year-old. It's fine. But there's a lot of talking in circles in this.
I mean, considering 21 Jump Street is also distracted at the moment, he's obviously trying to keep an eye out. I did like the fact that he kind of went into that moment with it. It was a very nice shared moment. So I'll give 21 Jump Street some credit. I've been hard on him before as far as his performances go, generally speaking. That was a well-delivered line of dialogue. So, but then we jump back. We have to decide, what are we going to do? The contractions are getting closer together. They could have the baby in the storefront, but then have to take the baby out, or they have to make a run for it.
Listen, the baby squad's still babying.
They're still babying at this point. They're going to make the decision that
I'm sorry. That's what I was talking about. They're talking in circles.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
There's so many scenes of, do we stay or do we go? Do we stay or do we go? We get it.
Should we stay or should I go? Little Clash. They should have had Clash playing in the background. That would have actually been nice. But yeah, absolutely, you're right. Kyle, the decision is they're gonna leave. Kyle's gonna go out and like faux surrender, while Alan, supposedly I guess is a pitcher, is gonna lob the grenade into the truck to kind of give him a second. But luckily for them, they don't need this plan at all. Convenience galore. Well before episode 3, well before Revenge of the Sith, Donovan has the high ground. On the top of
when? How?
I mean, he was running there, or he was making his way there from 5 miles away. He made a 5-mile run.
I've said this before, but there is always someone on an unintended roof. This is clearly a weakness that is often exploited. The visitors really need to watch those staircases.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Because we do know the high ground always wins.
It always does. And in this case, it does enough here. I do like, this is one of my favorite. I remember as a kid, this is one of my favorite action sequences because it was great. It was Donovan being all action hero-y. Hey boys, the party's up here. And he starts blasting away. He got laser blasts everywhere. But I find it funny, and the more I watch it as I've grown older, they recycle footage in this exact scene. They show the same couple of shots twice. Like one is like more close up on it, but the same thing. And the shot they choose, it actually looks like the laser blast hits Donovan in the chest, like in the stomach. It looks like it hit him like both times, and he like, or in the arm. I'm sorry. It looks like it hits in the arm, and he goes, "Oh!" But like it doesn't actually affect his arm at all. Like I don't know. It's like, why are you having this happen? But either way, Donovan is the distraction. He has the high ground. Alan pitches the grenade into the Jeep, and then what happens? You said it before. Isaac Newton himself.
He jumps onto the truck.
What goes up must come down. And tell me that was not a Dono Ham exchange again.
Yeah, but it's the same writers, so they just got to give those lines to somebody else now.
Yeah, so Kyle is the recipient of the wittiness that would have been Ham and Donovan together.
Listen, Piglet's moving up in the world.
Well, somebody's going to eat the vegan ham.
Ham could not have had that conversation with that kid.
That's true.
Piglet could.
That's true. You know what? I'll give credit where credit's due there.
Although Donovan definitely could have had that conversation with that kid.
That actually felt like a Donovan conversation, to be honest with you. But I'm glad Kyle.
I think it's pretty Piglet.
Yeah, I'm glad Kyle.
Piglet really is a love child of Donna Ham.
You know what? I never really thought of it that way, but that's actually a good call. Because he kind of like has a little bit of that adventure, badass feel, but at heart, he's a Captain America type. So, like, yeah, that's a good call. So, Donna Ham's child is Kyle Bates. Maybe we should call him instead of vegan ham. Maybe vegan ham, Donna. What's a workshop? All right, then we get to the wedding of the century. Wedding! I could tell how excited you are. I want you to take the lead on this wedding stuff. Go, redhead, tell us.
Okay. So we open on a scene of a bunch of lizards standing in honestly a really lovely room, very modern. We got white floors, some kind of plants and stuff to have a little bit more of a naturalistic look. I love that some of the lizards are actually look like lizards.
Yes,
it was quite nice. And then some of them are in their human getup, makeups.
The priest or the religious, well, whoever's officiating the wedding is
Mhm.
in lizard gear, which is nice.
Yes.
I will say this: I believe this set, which we actually get to see this set a lot in the rest of the series. This is a set that, like, not necessarily set up like this, but entirely. But I feel like this room you'll come to see a lot. I actually think this is the same room as the ritual bath. I think it's the same set or whatever. But I agree with the visitor skills. We get to see them in their natural habitat, especially for a wedding. It makes sense. It makes so much sense. I can't believe they decided to do it.
We get to see Charles in his outfit, and oh my goodness, Diana in those. I don't know. It's kind of a greenish gold, kind of scaled looking outfit. It's very shiny, like reflective. Her
Hmm.
makeup is stunning. Jane Badler looks gorgeous. Her hair, it's not even hair at this point. It's Christmas tinsel. It is brown Christmas. There is so much glitter. She to this day still washing it out. They have their weird wedding, which is like, hope you're strong as a rock, and may you have lizard babies to be future little soldiers. They
the,
both.
s- the ceremonial mouse was a little much.
I haven't gotten there yet. PLD.
Sorry, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm
Uh,
jumping the gun. I'm jumping the gun.
Charles says, and I do. Jane Badler has this great look of just sadness and contempt as she begrudgingly also agrees to marry Charles because she doesn't have a choice. They do have a ceremonial lizard. I thought they were going to cut away because it looked like they were going to cut away and have her, eat it. But then they cut back and it's a wider shot. And
Mhm.
then it looks kind of maybe like a peep.
Yeah, it definitely is. It's definitely a fake one at that point.
It's like some sort of like a marshmallow looking thing.
Because it
I think
suddenly
it's
isn't
interesting.
moving.
Yes. No blood either.
No.
Like, this show would be real different if it was a little more realistic.
Could be.
And they let the lizards eat from the buffet, and they have a whole assortment of all kinds of, miceies, I'm sorry, mousies, and
Mhm.
all kinds of icky things I would never want to see a human eat. And those lizards are pigs.
Yeah, they go after that buffet table like there's like no tomorrow. Like they're like pushing through. They're gonna get there. It's animalistic for sure.
And meanwhile, I feel very bad for Lydia, who's there watching this. So sad, but her outfit is horrid. Whoever dressed her, rude. Rude.
Yeah, I was not a fan of that dress either. Like
It was
it looked.
like it was like a silver potato sack.
Yeah, yes,
Right.
that's a good point. Like it really felt like a baked potato. It really felt what it felt like. Look at someone with baked potato.
But
And like
she's
I
wearing
did like the
the
gold sash belt she had. That's about it
yeah,
though. I did like that. Um,
she's wearing the perfume that Thunderdome had given her previously. And this is
Marta.
important because it's supposed to drive men wild. And I'm thinking based on Diana and Charles' comments on it that it actually doesn't smell that good.
It does
Like
linger
it
in the
lasts.
nostrils. um, what a clumsy. Oh, musk of rat. By the way, that's the perfume. Musk of rat. Really, really. That's what we're gonna go with. Musk of rat. It's a human like
I mean, that would be like the human equivalent of like a guy wearing like lasagna perfume.
exactly. The worst thing is it'd be but no, it would be going to like the alien planet and they're wearing and finding a musk of lasagna at the alien planet because rats I don't believe are in serious. Like, what did they develop this while they were here? Is
I
that what
mean, they
happened?
probably
Or
brought it along with them.
that's what I'm saying though. The aliens, the rat, the essence of rat from their planet, isn't the rat from Earth?
Well,
So unless
PLD.
they developed it here, I guess you could say
No, I think this is something that they just do they
renamed.
okay. Do they have soap? And like because now they have hairs. Do they have shampoo?
Inquiring
Do
minds wonder.
they brush their teeth? Do they bring those supplies? Or do they have stuff to manufacture them on the aircrafts?
Maybe they don't need to. Maybe they just have some kind of laser
Do
thing in there.
they do they steal the stuff from us? Would it be the
Maybe.
same or different?
I don't know.
How much contact solution do they go through?
It must be a ton because those fucking eyes are huge. They were big.
And, like, do they have that manufactured on the ship? Do they have a huge supply of it? Do they use the same stuff we use?
There was a
Is that
supply of
still
lots
being
that we don't know about.
manufactured? Have they taken over production on there, and are they, like, forcing humans to work so that they can still have contact solution? Now I have a lot of questions.
That's a great question to have. I agree with you. I mean, we talk about the laser shortage at one point with the cobalt. Never get into the actually day to day necessities.
Like,
Shortage.
having just a random episode of just, like, an average lizard on the ship
That would be
stay
cool.
would have been interesting.
That would have been fun. I don't disagree. I don't disagree. Um, but the essence of
Going to
rat,
the gym.
the essence of rat is a definite plot point. As when Charles and Diana return to Charles's quarters, they still smell the essence of rat. Charles noting that it does linger in the nostrils after a while. Um, Diana realizes it, and here's where Diana gets to be a smart cookie. She realizes that Lydia must have been in there. I think that's her thought process. And she knows who Lydia wants to kill. So she's going to switch cups out of
So
a.
Lydia had given them these ceremonial cups with their
Correct.
names engraved on them, and Diana asks that they switch cups. So he'll take her. What
Her,
was the line?
my soul to your. Take
No, no,
this.
no. Like, take me like you'll take me. I don't know. It was something. Their
Take this
line
as you take
innuendo.
me. I think it's take this
Yeah.
as you take me forever.
Yes. And it was basically a situation. Never trust the Sicilian when death is on the line. Yeah,
Well,
he gets poisoned.
that's a
And
problem to me though, in a way, because I feel like Charles isn't that stupid. Like I feel like
I
he
don't
knows
think that he would think that Lydia or Diana would. I
how the
know
balls to cross him.
I I don't think I'm sure he had Diana being followed, and I don't think he would have thought Lydia would do anything like that.
To cross him. Maybe that Lydia was under his thumb enough that she wouldn't do anything. I guess that makes sense to a degree. Although I gotta feel like even now I look at that, and anytime you switch cups with somebody, that's never a good sign. I know it's usually not a good sign in TV and movies, and they're not supposed to be in a TV show. So I get that. But with everything going down, it felt a little strange that Charles did it so not openly, but so not even thinking about it. Kind of like, but I guess maybe he's arrogant enough to do so. Maybe that's what the moral of the story is. He's arrogant enough to think he can keep Diana on the ship still for a while and keep her under her thumb.
See, the problem with this, PLD, is you're looking at this from Charles' point of view. I'm
Mm.
looking at it from Lydia. Or I'm sorry, I'm looking at it from Diana, and everything's coming up Diana.
Well, Diana being that smart makes sense to me completely. I think that Diana is that smart.
But
That
I love that when he takes the drink and he just looks stunned and he says, "I've just been poisoned,
poisoned.
Lydia." And those
Yeah.
are his last words.
Well, that's an interesting point to bring up, though. As far as you know, I mean, I guess that must be a quick acting poison because we don't actually see him die because we jump to Earth. But like,
I was gonna say it's a slow acting poison.
I would think that wouldn't he have had enough time to call for help or something? I mean, Diana wasn't going to call for help, obviously,
I'm
but
assuming Diana cut communications.
maybe that's what happened. Okay, that's fair. That's a fair
But
statement.
clearly she did go get guards. I mean, she
Yes,
did
right.
not do anything wrong.
No, no, not at all. Well, because also she could take over because she's now in charge. Because as Charles's wife, she probably supersedes Lydia's position at that point. All right,
And
right.
also, I mean, literally, I thought it was great. She didn't have to do anything.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's
Problem
great.
resolved itself.
Mhm. And Lydia ends up screwing Lydia, as the case
So
may
the
be.
only we haven't got there yet, but the only problem I actually have with this episode is at the end, Diana doesn't smile at the camera when the credits are rolling.
Yeah, I do think that's okay too. I think they wanted to have her look at Charles's body and be horrified, but A, it was not horrifying because it was kind of weird looking. B, Diana wouldn't be freaked out. I think Diana's seen much worse, and so I agree. Diana probably should have been like, "Yeah, boy,
Well, I'm actually just going to fast forward. Okay, so Lydia comes into the room and finds Charles' dead body, and it's definitely
dead."
Psycho. They're doing Psycho. The
Yeah,
chair turns, and the music is very reminiscent of Henry Bernard. Henry's not
yes,
the right word.
Yeah, no,
How was
uh,
I'm so bad with names. Definitely
I'm
starts with
actually been very. I used to be. I used to write movie trivia. Bernard Herrmann. That's what it is.
Bernard Herrmann. I'm like, I know it's a B and an H. Bernard Herrmann. Yeah, it's very reminiscent of his score. And then she cries and she's arrested for the murder. And Diana's my favorite character. I love this for her.
Oh yeah, Diana. I mean, Diana has been one of the best characters in the inception of the show. And she, even though we've gotten to Space Dallas or Space Dynasty, we still get a lot of love. Get to see Diana being Diana, which is she's actually probably the big draw of the show,
And
especially
I'm
now
so
that Michael
excited to
Ironside's gone.
see the power move she's gonna have next episode. It's gotta happen.
Mm-hmm. Gotta have the next episode coming up. We did skip over one last brief thing when we get the birth of the baby, Victoria. Yay, we're good. Victoria is born. Charles is dead.
Terrible, terrible, terrible.
Charles is dead. Long live Charles, and Diana is now back in charge. And that's where we end the episode. Um, so overall thoughts. You seem to be actually pretty happy with this episode, despite how much
Everything is
problems we have
coming
with
up.
it.
Diana, I love it. I'm on her side now.
That's fair.
It's again, there are a lot of problems. This episode had so much potential, and I kind of didn't really do anything with it as per usual.
Mhm.
But it's still entertaining AF because the performances are being given by people who are really good and talented.
Yes, yes, and that is the key in this case and all. Now, next episode, I'll talk about my thoughts. I agree. I agree with you. I actually, like I said at the beginning part, I actually had a lot of fun in this episode, despite my misgivings of Ham leaving and the cull of all the characters or whatever. This was definitely an entertaining episode. We got to see something. It was something new we hadn't gotten to see in a while. Getting the resistance back out in the open, LA back in shambles, Charles and Diana political plays, things of that nature. It seemed like the shakeup was working to a degree in this episode. It was still fun to watch. A lot of like problems with details. I guess that's always the case, though, right? We have some great ideas, possibilities, but the details just bog it down. And you're like, well, what the hell is happening? I wish I could say that it continues next episode. If I remember correctly, this is not going to be a fun one. Too much. Although I do think the Diana Lydia stuff might get us through. I think that's what we'll have to bank on.
So Lydia is in the next episode?
Lydia is in the next episode, yes.
Disappointed.
Oh, are you disappointed? Okay. Oh, Lydia's
I thought
there.
it was done. I thought it was gone.
Okay, well, I'm going to break your heart.
Is it a
then.
trial?
I'm either going to break your heart or I'm going to stir or like gird you, I guess.
Is it gonna be like Professor X and Magneto, and now Lydia's sitting in jail and Diana talks to her?
Well, I'm not going to spoil anything else, but I will say that we do have Lydia's not leaving anytime soon. Let's put it that way. But it's a better dynamic.
Would have been fun.
Yeah, you're right. It's a better dynamic. I'll tell you that much. I feel like it's a better dynamic because we've gone from a different dynamic. From Diana and Lydia at the beginning was Lydia was underneath Diana's heel, but trying to scheme her way to the top. Then we had the flip with Lydia being in charge. Now it's going to be a little bit more the different dynamic again. And this is what makes it at least, so it doesn't feel as old because it's a little bit of a different dynamic again. There is some fun to be had. There's still some fun to be had. The resistance side of things, you will love. There is a portion of this episode that you are going to love. I'm going to tell you that right now, and I can't wait to talk to you about it. But besides that, that's next time. That's next time. So until then, folks, where can the folks find you? Like,
you can find me at Legoland13 on the YouTube. So all my other social media is linked from there, and then I'm also on the Rob Fishbeck Network every other Thursday we do a live show on 9:00 Eastern time, and you can do the math to figure out what that is your time.
I love you do that. Yeah, I'm going to actually be appearing on that channel in the near future. So I can't wait to do that. Actually, Rob and I have talked about a few episodes I might try to appear on. So I can't wait. A little bit of collaboration. I'll probably see you there, I assume. Um, and you can find me at @News on Twitter. You can find me at PLD Projects all over the place. We, as of this recording, we hit a milestone. Small milestone, modest milestone that I've been shooting for. We did hit 500 subscribers, which I'm very happy for. I think it was like 502 when we started recording. So the march is now on for 1,000, but we'll get there eventually. I'm not in any hurry. So I say, like, some people, like, I have friends who have like hundreds of thousands of subscribers. Some people have millions of subscribers. So I'm like, yeah, 500. But I actually love the fact that 500 people or 500 subscribers want to listen to me talk about all this kind of weird shit. That's, I'm talking about a 1980s sci-fi show at this point.
I mean, it's weird what people flock to. I don't really look at subscriber stuff. I look at like individual videos.
Yeah.
I think I do a lot. You have very diverse like topics on your channel, which I feel like mine are even more so because I just do a whole range of things. But it's weird. Like, I think one of the videos that has the most viewed on my channel is I did a review of the 1980 film Lucas with Corey Haim and
Right?
Ryder. It's like, okay, a lot of Lucas fans out there, I guess. Maybe I should do Rudy.
You should. There you go. You never know what's going to hit. It's kind of funny. I had the show Class Action on this channel, which was a live stream show I did, and it's on hiatus now, where we basically put two things up against each other. There were your two movies or two actors, or two whatever, and you never know what's going to hit. Usually my channel gets like 50 to 100 views, whatever. This episode, which was Predator versus Prey, ended up getting 16,000 views, and I'm kind of like, where'd that come from? I have no idea. How could I make that happen again? In fact, actually, an old Class Action of mine has been my most recent, like, viewed. White House Down versus Olympus Has Fallen has been my most recent success. It still gets a lot of
those movies are confusing because they're too much alike. Well, I had a similar thing. I compared the first Conjuring and Insidious because I kept, when I was younger, I was always getting them confused because they both have Patrick Wilson in them.
Like, you're both James Wan. Yeah, they're both James Wan babies, and Patrick Wilson involved. Yeah, absolutely. I had the same feeling. I thought Insidious was part of the Conjuring franchise at one point for the same exact reason. But anyway, 500 subscribers has been great. If you want to help continue, like, subscribe, leave comments. We always comment, talk. We have a couple of great, specifically for this show, we've had a couple of great list of viewers commenting on some of them going back to the older episodes or catching up. Hopefully they're going to catch up to us pretty soon. Love seeing you guys in the comments specifically. And of course, if you want to help out even further, patreon.com/PLD Projects. Have more stuff for you there. But I get it. If you can't do it, I understand. But Austin Cadell, Brandon Buckingham, Jeff Alterman, those people I want to shout out amongst some other crew members there. Anything else I should say? But I guess not quite. My Queen podcast every week on the sister YouTube channel, Crown Jewels. I have the Holy Snokes episodes coming up. Me and Maddie are talking about Star Wars. I think we're going to do our rewatch of the Bad Batch season 1 as we're getting ready for season 3. I never got to review season 1 on the channel, so we're going to go back and do that. PJ and I doing 2 Meter for White Dudes on film. We're recording Jason Goes to Hell finally, not tomorrow, Tuesday. We're going to record that one on Tuesday. That's not our favorite installment, so that might be an interesting episode.
I'll pray for you.
Although I will say, one spoiler, I actually enjoyed watching it more than Jason Takes a Cruise.
Do you headcanon that, I don't remember his name, the main guy with the glasses is Tommy Jarvis? Because he was supposed to be, but they couldn't get the rights to him.
Yeah, I do kind of try to headcanon that, and that makes it easier a little bit. But it is kind of weird because they take wild swings, and I guess that's what I appreciate about it. Because at least it wasn't boring. At least it wasn't like, at least they were trying to do something else.
Jason,
they weren't great swings.
Jason, Friday the 13th 8. It took a swing.
It didn't really take that much of a swing. It wanted to take a swing. Is
it the first sequel that goes to New York? Because that was a trend for a while.
Yeah.
Did they want to do Jason Meets the Muppets?
They should have. If they didn't, I don't know
because
where we didn't get that.
The Muppets Take Manhattan happened first, right?
Yeah, I think so.
That was in the earlier 80s.
I want to say that was, because I'm trying to think the Muppet movie was done. Let's see, Muppet Take Manhattan. I want to say it was 87, maybe. Oh, no, 84. Wow, 84. I thought it was a lot later than that. I'm wrong. Okay.
I was gonna say that's one of the earlier ones.
Yeah. Well, I said it was Muppet Show, the Muppet movie. There was the Great Muppet Caper. So this is
Yeah.
the third one. This is why I thought it was like 87 or something like that. But okay, fair enough. So this definitely took place first. So
Okay,
Jason,
so
you're
they
doing
were
a
the
good one.
first ones to take Manhattan. Then it
And
was
then,
Jason. Then it was the kid from Home Alone.
yep. And that was right
And then
around
it
the
was
same
Scream
time.
6.
Then it was Scream 6. And that franchise is now over, I think, for a while. That's another story. That's another story entirely. But yeah, I got that. And finally, the last podcast we do, me and PJ also have begun our big blue box, where we broke free from talking about Doctor Who instead of in front of our horror movies. Now we actually have a whole podcast about Doctor Who, which we can talk about, which we'll end up talking about horror movies in front of probably as it goes on. Who knows? But that's it for now. Stay tuned till next week or next time, actually, 2 weeks from now, where we'll delve into, I believe the episode is called The Champion. Season 1, episode 14. We are counting down the days or counting down the episodes before we hit that final finale and the script for the unfinished script episode. So look forward to that. But yeah, until next time, pray to Nam, everybody.